Welcome back to Create Wealth Through Franchising Podcast and Kim Daly TV. In my studio today, all the way from Charleston, South Carolina, Luis Ferioli of Bumblebee Blinds. Luis, welcome to the studio of Kim Daly TV.
Thank you for having me. We're excited.
It's a pleasure to have you. Number one, because he tells me he moved from Minneapolis to Charleston, South Carolina. So that's a story in and of itself. But he's also a part of a franchise that is near and dear to my heart, Bumblebee Blinds, which is part of the Horsepower Brands family of franchises. So, Luis, I want to start this conversation at the beginning of your franchising story. So tell my followers, what were you doing in Minneapolis? Why did you want to make a change in your life other than to escape the cold winter?
I had spent 22 years in a corporate job. And the last 5 years of my corporate career, we were challenged with profits and margin adjustments. The job had become more challenging than I enjoyed the first 15 years of my career. So letting go of people, closing facilities down. It was just very negative environment that I was living in. And then on top of that, the travel. I was gone from home. I spent more times on a hotel bed than I did in my own personal. My son was going to be 17 at that time. I sat at the table and sometimes I felt like a stranger. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know the activities I was missing, things that we're doing. It just kind of woke me up to say, what am I doing? Am I going to spend the rest of my working career and doing all this corporate side, or am I going to make a change? So at that point in time, I started researching options to start my own business. And I started researching a lot about failure rate, success rate, a lot of information around when you start from scratch. The failure rate percentage is so much higher versus when you start with a playbook, with a support team, with a support group, with a proven strategy. Kind of what drove me towards deciding on a franchise. I was blessed to find a consultant that was able to really help me analyze what my skills were, what my wife's skills were, and really connect our skills, our passion, what we wanted to do to find a business that was going to better suit us long term. I was really surprised that the first month or so of our interactions had nothing to do with a certain business, a certain trade. It was really just about us trying to find what we could bring to a certain trade. We ended up kind of narrowing it down to a couple industries. And once I met the folks at Bumblebee Blinds, I felt like it was kind of a match made in heaven. It was the right group of people, the right support, the right playbook for us. And I think that's kind of how we got into it. I think in short, that's how we went from corporate job to deciding I was going to start our own business, and really making the decision that franchise was a more successful kind of a success rate, because I didn't want to take any risk on not making it successful just because I didn't know all the details. And this industry was completely new to me. I had never in my life knew much about blinds or shades or shutters or anything for that matter. And Bumblebee did. They taught me what I didn't know. And I knew how to run a business. I knew how to run a successful business. I knew nothing about window treatments. So that's really where I think the marriage became profitable for us, because they knew it and they taught me that.
The first thing is, so you decide to invest in yourself instead of in somebody else's dream in corporate America. And were you in Minneapolis for the job? So that was an easy decision. We're no longer working here. We're out of here. And you moved south?
The company was struggling. The most important part of the next step was being with my family, was being home. I didn't mind working 12, 14-hour days. I just wanted to get back to my own bed every night. That was kind of the main decision maker, honestly, to start my own business, was that I was going to be there locally, because I looked at other options and everything was 25% travel, 30% travel, 40% travel. It was going to be the same situation, just with a different name.
What kind of industry were you in?
Home delivery of frozen food.
Okay.
So I was very familiar with the customer experience, very familiar with being in the home, very familiar with the relationship building, connecting with the consumer. That, to me, those were kind of the easy points after 20 some years. The trade was kind of the question, what trade I was going to be in. I knew it was going to be a home service business, because that's where my skill set is at. I just wasn't sure which part of the home service industry would I be at.
So when you decided to plant long-term roots, you decided to move to a place that you wanted to be long-term?
I grew up in Peru, in South America. My parents and all of us, we were near the beach. Living in Colorado for 20 years, living in Minnesota for about 6, nowhere near the ocean. We were in the search for salt water, being able to enjoy the warmth. We actually spent about 4 years traveling the coast, going from Southeast up to like Virginia Beach, just looking at different areas that we liked. And Charleston was the place. It's got the roots, it's got the classic Charleston, just the laid back environment that we want. And that's why we picked Charleston. It was just the right place for us. Skip that part. That helps us with home service business.
There might be some listener out there thinking, well, Minneapolis seems like a better market than Charleston, South Carolina for a business. When you were looking for a place to build your business and your future, I like the way you did it. You were more focused on what's best for my family, and you had faith that the business you invested in would work in that market.
I felt like whatever I set myself to accomplish, I was going to accomplish it. That was not the question for me. It was more the right location to do it. And my wife, my son, they did not love the wonderful -30 temperatures for 8 months of the year. It was a win-win for my family to go to a warm place, get to the water. We have all our kids within about a 10-mile radius of where we live now. So all kids are here. We're all here. And we have a grandchild. So just everything just kind of come together.
So let's get to the most obvious question. How you wrapped your arms around waking up to say, yes, I'm a Bumblebee Blinds franchisee.
I think the process, the right coach to help you select the right franchise really makes the difference. Having someone that really took the time to understood who we were, understood what we could be successful at, and knowing that I was looking for home services because I knew from my skill that the consumer experience was what we could elevate, which part of it would it be. When we started going through the whole process, I didn't really have anything in mind. I just knew it had to be in the house. The other piece the one thing I didn't know was I didn't want to be kind of in the messy side of construction. I didn't want to be in the flooring, the tearing down walls, the landscaping part. I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to be kind of in the finishing points. I wanted to help customers kind of put that special touch to their home, make that place their home. And that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be more towards the end of the process, not at the beginning of the process. Some of the industries that I had looked at that time was like moving. I had been looking at industries like how do you kind of like interior design, things like that. And when I started doing some research and I found out that in our market, it was primarily dominated by one or two big players. And there really wasn't a strong new player coming in the market that could have success for window treatments and started kind of popping up interior design, window treatments, things like that. It was just crazy. Like I just happened to meet Courtney at that time with Bumblebee Blinds. And I think we had also a personal connection. And I think that was very helpful. I think it's helpful when you connect with another human being. And I think you can kind of start seeing yourself. This person kind of gets what I'm trying to do. When I first got the window treatment piece, I started doing research. Then I started looking at different things because to be transparent, we've owned about 3 homes in our life. One had plain old white blinds. The home we bought in Minnesota was actually more of a custom home, so it had nicer treatments on it. There was a little bit more of that. And then when we moved to Charleston, go back to white blinds. It's not like I will say, hey, we already kind of have the heart for it. It really was something new that caught my eye that I felt that I could elevate and grow within. I will tell you, my first 6 months before I opened the doors, all I did every single morning, day and night was watch YouTube videos, watched training, going to design seminars, just learning about the industry. I realized how big the industry is. And also with the growth in Charleston, I mean, we have tremendous amount of growth in this area for years to come. We might as well tap into that and do something that I enjoy. I mean, not to jump ahead. I love waking up every day. I get to go talk to customers. We have fun with their homes. And I decide what I do every day. It just changed the person that I am. It changed, give a little more purpose to our family. We spend more time. Everyone is involved in our business. My wife is involved every day. My sons are involved in the business. So it's like a family approach and not just the guy that got on a plane on a Monday morning and came home Friday afternoon. We're doing it together. We're finding out different things about each other. Even though we've been a family for 20 some years, you're finding completely different sides of each other just by going through the interactions with consumers, the business in general. We love it. It's been great for us.
I kind of was gleaning that your wife was involved or your family was involved in the business. So I'm glad you came around to that. I just wanted to go back and fill in the gap. So the first thing this very smart man said was, you need a good franchise consultant. Okay. Well, remember that that's the point of Create Wealth Through Franchising TV and Kim Daly TV is Kim Daly is a franchise consultant. So if you're sitting out there and you're thinking, wow, I need to find myself one of those people, where do I do that? You've got yourself a coach in Kim Daly. Okay. That's the first thing. And then the second truth bomb that Luis said, this was really about the people. He formed a connection with the people who represented Bumblebee, and that helped him to learn about the brand and feel connected to the brand. And in franchising, that's what this is all about. It's more about who than it is what. That's exactly what he said. I say it, it's who, not what. I interview the franchisee, and he says it in his own words. He picked a business not because he was, I can't wait to go sell window treatments. He found people, and he found a connection, and he found purpose, and he found training and support and a proven business model and all of those things that enabled him to build a bridge. He could say, I could sell window treatments and be successful at it. If you're sitting out there and you're thinking, I can't reach out to Kim because I don't know what the business is, you don't need to know what the business is. That's what I do for you. What you need to know is the why. Why do you want to own a business? Are you, like Luis, tired of getting on an airplane, not knowing your family, sleeping in a hotel bed more than your own bed? If that's your story, that's a story that I have helped for over 23 years. I just wanted to go back and fill in all those amazing, amazing little truth bombs you were dropping all along the way, Luis, just to kind of tie it all together. You're in business for how long?
I guess we should say it's in September of 2013. We actually were very fast. I made the decision in May of 2013. We went to a discovery day and kind of met everybody. One thing I wanted to double check was the people seemed all good. I needed to make sure that the processes, the support was going to be there. When I went to the discovery day and I got to meet the verticals, like all the support services right available. And then I got to meet the full leadership team and see them in person, shake their hands. It's kind of like the last piece I needed. I remember having the conversation and saying, how quick can I open this business? How fast can I open it? I appreciated about the leadership of Bumblebee. They said, you need to trust us and you need to trust us to get you ready. Because my questions kept being, okay, I don't know anything about window treatments. Like, can I learn in 12 weeks, 10 weeks? How long? And they said to me, clearly, they said, give us 12 weeks and we will get you ready. And I said, okay, 12 weeks it is. So we sat in this office in Omaha. We circled the middle of September as our target date. And fast forward, that's when we opened. We opened on the exact same day that we said we would. And when we started, I felt ready. I felt like I knew what I was doing. Very nervous through that piece. I felt like I knew what I was doing. We started very strong right away, which we had done. I spent about 3 months of my time doing a ton of networking. We had already kind of pre-built leads and times with people. We started right away having a ton of success. In the first month, we had our first $40 month of sales. The franchise had never done, so that was good to have that. At the end of the year, franchisees vote, your results, of course, and we were voted Franchise of the Year for 2023. That was cool because we were all new and we were all helping each other. I think we all respected where we were at. It was awesome to see. Right away in 2024, I started learning a lot about the business and working with the brand to make adjustments because the brand is new. They were going into their second year. One thing I appreciated about the franchise that I selected, because it was back to people, not only did they help me, they also listened. And they listened to what I was struggling with and what I needed to do. And they kept making the adjustments and kept supporting me along the way on that. And really, it made 2024 the year, because I remember at that time I had set some crazy sales target, wanted to do X millions. And I said, just started your business 4 months ago. I love that you want to go for the sky. Let's be realistic and set some good goals. And literally, I used to say that myself to people. And of course, you forget that when you get into it and excited. I had originally set up a goal of having $1 million in revenue for my first full year. We ended up short of it. We were about 900,000. I think you can be proud of a lot of those things. Getting our first commercial contract, that was huge. As soon as you start getting your name out there, you got our first commercial contract. It was like $25,000. I couldn't believe it, right? It's at the beginning of many things. At the end of 2024, we actually got contract with a very large hotel, local hotel here, and we're going to redo 400 guest rooms, all of the meeting rooms and everything over the next year and a half or 2 years. And just to be able to gain contracts like that, even just as of this week, we got a call from the county and they invited us to bid on their projects. And before I got on this call, I got an email that we were their finalists and they wanted to meet with us for us to do some of the buildings for the county, which is big, right? So I go back and I look like, how do we get there? And it's consistent blend of listening to the playbooks and the franchise guidance. Take your instincts, what we've known, right? What I've known for 20 some years in the industry, not the industry of the window treatment, the industry of people, and applying that. And we finished last year #1 in sales for the franchise, which is positive. And this year, of course, now we're a little more confident. Let's just say that we're getting very close to about $300,000 in sales just at the beginning of March. Compared to last year in May, we were about barely 200. So we're way ahead of the pace that we were on. And my goal is to get to about 1.5 million this year in sales. And that's it. And we're way ahead of track on that. I want to be transparent with this. Not every day is roses and beautiful. And I think having the right franchise relationship, it helps on those tough days. Because I had a president of a franchise that I used to call at 9 o'clock at night. I'd be like, okay, you didn't say that about this. I'm a little bit concerned about that. And it's okay, it's okay. We'll work through it together. Finding the right consultant to help you find the right partners in the industry are huge, because when I started looking at franchises, all I ever thought was the big name. I never thought of the little names that are successful, the Subways of the world, big names like that. I said, well, I don't know. There's so many of them already. I didn't realize how many opportunities are there. But I think the franchise consultant, once it gets to you, it opens up doors, the relationship happens. I am glad that I went with the franchise and I didn't go with starting my own business. I don't think that I would have had the speedy success that we've seen. I knew nothing about window treatments, and the fact that now we just did a job last week and I was like, in how amazing the team is done. Because this isn't about me and my wife. It's about really good people that work in our teams. They care, they're passionate, committed to customers and make them happy. I think that's what drives a lot of our team. I was just showing somebody this morning, one of our business breakfast meetings that we have. I was showing people, I just couldn't believe that in a little after about 1.5 years that we're actually doing projects, could be in a magazine someplace. It's just mind blowing that with the right partnership, you can get there.
It's amazing. I want to circle back one thing. When you were talking about the timeline, you said 2013, and I knew what you meant. You started your business in 2023, correct? Because when you said we were Rookie of the Year in 2023, how did you make sense of an emerging brand? I'm guessing you were one of the very first franchisees for Bumblebee. So there wasn't a lot of validation with other franchise owners that you could really kind of like dive into and see kind of what they were doing. Any advice for the follower out there who may be leaning into an emerging brand and wondering, why am I investing in this franchise when I'm buying a franchise so there's proof, but yet there is no proof?
Kind of the teeter-totter, known brand, new, high investment, low investment. A new brand is going to cost less. A known brand is proven it's going to cost more. I was making a decision early on how much money I wanted to invest, how much comfort I wanted to have with that. I had to believe in this. I was the number 10th person to buy a franchise. I was the third one to open because some other folks were kind of figuring out their finances. So I was able to kind of leapfrog ahead. The two things that I will advise somebody is you got to do the homework. And I think starts with the right structure around you. I had a good finance person. I had a good legal friend of mine that was looking at documents, advising me on things. Ultimately, an amazing coach that was able to guide me along the way. If I look back and if I would have personally just reached out directly to a brand and say, hey, I just want to buy something from you, I probably would regret it every day. The process that you follow to really understand what you need is important. That allows you to learn on your decision. Big brand, new brand, how much money you got to put in. And the reality, you got to see the playbook is there. I wanted to validate what Bumblebee was new, but horsepower wasn't. Horsepower was the right backing of Bumblebee. Knew they had the verticals, the shared service support there. So I knew that was going to work. And then when I started meeting with the folks and really what they knew, I think it gave me the vote of confidence. So I guess what I will say, number one is surround yourselves with the right people. Number two is get a clear understanding of three things: financial position, how you're going to go about it, what your role is in the relationship with the franchisor, and how you're going to manage that relationship. Third, make sure that, as I said, you have the right support of the people and that you understand the clear role you're going to play. If you're looking for an absentee model or an operator model, you got to be very clear on what role you want to play. And I think if you understand that role, you can make better decisions, because I think some franchises are more positive for operator models than they are for absentee. I think those three pieces, you got to have clear understanding before you even go to, I will say, discovery time day. You're not going to be able to leverage those minutes if you don't have clear understanding of those three pieces. That's what I would recommend.
Amazing pearls of wisdom right there. Everything that a good franchise consultant is going to help you do, this man is validating loud and clear. It's so good. Oh, Luis, I could listen to you talk about your story forever. And I don't want to take up any more of your time, though, because you got a big county bid to go work on. To end this amazing, amazing conversation, let me ask you this question that I ask every single person that I interview. There's a lot of people out there that follow Kim Daly who are still on the sideline. They're thinking, should I, shouldn't I? Making the excuses, and sometimes they're justified. I need health insurance, or I'm afraid to leave my job, or my husband isn't supportive of this, or all the things. Everybody has something that kind of they stay tethered to until they decide to cut that cord. For those listeners who are out there on that sideline, what advice do you have for them?
Number one is you got to understand what you want. I don't want to get into the whole happiness piece. The next 5 to 10 years for yourself. If what you're experiencing every morning when you're sitting at that edge of the bed and you're dreading to take that shower to go into the office, if it is that hard to get off that bed, the only person that can control the change is you. That's the number one decision is, are you ready for change? Because that's the only constant in life is change. And change is going to be applied to you or you're going to make it. I have had more success making change by my own decision than when other people change it for me. I will say number one is you got to make that decision that you want something different. And if you want something different, I tell this to my kids, I tell that everyone I meet, I said, just bet on yourself. That's the one control piece that you always have is your own actions and your own beliefs. And if you bet on yourself, I guarantee you're going to be fun. You're going to be someone that people are going to want to be around. But when you're miserable, nobody wants to be around miserable. You got to make that change decision. You got to believe in yourself. And then lastly, which I think is as important, educate yourself, surround yourself with the right people. I can see how passionate you are to helping people. Make sure that you surround yourself with people that know what they're doing. That will make you feel better and will allow you to really take your skills to the next level. You're the one that has to wake up at that edge of that bed every day and make that decision to get up and get going. Or you could be jumping out of bed like I do and enjoying myself, signing a franchise agreement and moving on. You got to do the homework. You got to put in the time. You got to surround yourself with the right people. Do it if you feel it's right for you. If not, continue to be miserable if that's okay with you.
I'm so happy that Bumblebee Blinds suggested you to be a guest on my show. I know 100% why. They knew that you would just knock it out of the park, and you totally have. The last thing I'm going to say to you is, you might have heard this already, but I just placed 2 men into Bumblebee Blinds, and they said that Luis guy, he's the guy to beat.
It keeps us going, right? Keeps the count.
Sure does. Yeah. And then for those who are listening who may not really understand, in franchising with our fellow franchisees, the human in us loves to compete. At the end of the day, are we really competitors? No. When I learn something and it can help you do better, and I share with you and you do better, then whole brand equity does better. We all actually benefit. We can't help it. We always get a little bit competitive. And I loved it when they came back to me. I love the American dream in this whole thing. I love the honesty, just the rawness of how your life was when you were waking up and traveling, and that whole story. I know that resonates with so many people listening to this show, whether they've already made the change and they are a franchisee and that's why they're listening just to be inspired, or because they haven't and they're just hanging on. They hear you say it and it's so real to them. I just appreciate you so, so much. Thank you so much for being my special guest today here on Kim Daly TV. For those who may be ready to tiptoe into the water and you want Kim Daly to be your franchise consultant and your daily coach, well, I'm ready. All you have to do is follow the link in the description below, and I promise to reach out to you right away. Thank you so much for staying with us till the end, and we'll see you in the next one.